Well, hi and welcome to episode 16 of New Eden. Hey, when we lost our first little frigate recently in our 100 frigates project, someone in the comments asked, why did you not overheat? Now, what is this overheat thing that you speak of? Let's find out. So I'm going to pull up my fitting window and I'm going to simulate the fit of this little Merlin, and I'm going to particularly have a look down here at its navigation, its speed, how fast it travels, 837. But if I press this little red overheat button here, you'll see that the velocity has jumped to 1070, and I can check those stats. I can toggle through by pressing this button multiple times, scrolling through active, offline, online, and overheated. Now, overheating is when I can draw some extra performance out of a module at the risk of damaging it. Let's have a look at our guns up in the top. I can do the same thing here. Now, I was doing 126 DPS, but if I overheat one of those guns, I jump up to 132. Now, that's a little bit of a pain to do each one individually. We can actually, for our simulation, overheat an entire rack. I get this little radial menu by selecting this icon, and I can overheat the entire rack. Now, by a rack, I mean all of the high slots. I could set them just to be activated only, or I could set them to overheat. And you'll see my stats when I overheat all of my high slot guns here jump to 145 DPS. Which was quite a jump from the original 125. How do I get the ability to overheat? It's a skill that we need to train. So I'm going to go to my skill page, search for thermodynamics, and you'll see here that in the little blurb, it talks about being able to push modules beyond their intended limit. Okay, so you basically can improve their performance for short periods of time, but they do take heat damage. Now, each level of skill that you train reduces that heat damage by 5% per level. So the higher you had this trained, the longer you're able to run your overheated modules before they get destroyed or suffer extreme heat damage. Let's buy this skill. And I'm actually going to apply some of my skill points and get this at least trained up to level 1 for the moment so that we can use it and show you some tips and tricks and things to watch out for. And I'm also going to load up a few more levels of thermodynamics into my training queue, because particularly if you want to do some solo PvP, it's a very important skill to have. Now, if you're an alpha, you can train this up to level 4. But if you're an Omega and you've got some time, I'm going to actually put level 5 into my queue. Definitely something to aim for. Right, so here we are sitting out in our little safe spot. I'm going to fire up my afterburner, get us up to our 830 odd meters per second, which is our non-overheated maximum velocity. Right, so here we are chugging along at 837. How do I actually overheat this afterburner module? Well, there are a couple of ways. I could click on the little green wedge at the top of the module button, and at the start of the module's next cycle, it will kick into its overheated state. Now, that is one way of doing it. For me, I find that really clumsy, because in the heat of battle, that is a very small target to hit with your mouse button. A much more reliable way to do this is to shift click the module. So hold down the shift button, click on the module, you'll see the wedge starts to blink, and at the start of the next cycle turns yellow, and we're now in our overheated state. And you'll see our velocity now going past that 830 odd up over 1000. And you'll also see in the little capacitor wheel here, we have a heat gauge that's starting to show the heat increase in that rack, in this case in our mid slot, and we can actually start to see some damage starting to occur to this module. Looking at the moment, it's 23%. At the end of every cycle, there is a chance that the damage will increase, not just to this module, but to every other module that is in that same rack, or in this case in the mid slots. Now, by shift clicking again on the module, at the end of the cycle, it will revert back to its normal state from its overheated state. And when we do that, the heat will start to dissipate in that rack. So if I hover over the heat bar here for the mid slots, you'll see that number slowly dropping. That's the heat state of that middle slot rack. Right, you can see not only did our afterburner get 23% damage, but our warp scrambler also suffered some heat damage, because it's every module in that slot can be at the risk of heat damage when you're overheating a module in that slot. Now, this of course raises the question, how do you repair this damage? Well, there are a number of ways. The cheapest and easiest way is if you have tethering access to a friendly citadel in system. You can simply tether to that citadel, and your modules will start to repair automatically at no cost to you. So let's have a look. I've got a friendly citadel here in system. I'm going to tether to that citadel, And you'll see that automatically my modules will start to repair themselves. Now, if I had damaged drones in my drone bay, they would also start to repair at this point. So let's have a look at the stats. I can see now that that damage value is starting to drop, and that will be the same for each of my damaged modules. Now, what happens to a module if we just continue to let it overheat? Well, as the heat builds up, the chance of damage increases, and we get to a point where we say we burn out our modules. It actually stops working. We say we burnt out our afterburner, for example. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to burn out this afterburner by letting the heat build up to a point where I get 100% damage, and it will shut down and simply stop operating. Now, interestingly, in this case, you'll see the web burns out first. Even though I'm not using the web, I'm heating the afterburner. Remember, the heat damage carries across the entire slot, and in this case, all three of these modules actually burn out 100% damage. Are now they're offline, they're unusable. So here we are back at our friendly Citadel, letting these burnt out modules repair. You'll see the repair damage numbers coming down, and as they get back to 0, I'll be able to put that module back online. Now I right click on it and select put online, but in this case I try to put the web back online and I get this error message. You can only put a module back online whilst you're in space if your capacitor is at 95% or more. So I could sit here and let this go back up to 95% and then put that other module on, or there is a quicker way. By docking up into the Citadel or a station, your cap automatically refills. And that's what we did here, because ain't nobody got time to sit around and wait for that cap to recharge. Dock, undock from a station or a Citadel, and your cap instantly recharges to 100%, and you can online those repaired modules. But what if you don't have access to a friendly Citadel to get that free tethering repair? Well, you can repair your modules in a station. So we're going to dock up here in good old Fleet 3 station, and we'll show you the process of repairing. Now, it'll cost you a little bit of ISK, not a lot depending where you're at, but you are able to repair those modules if you don't have Citadel access. Let's have a look. So once we're inside the station, all we need to do is simply right click on our ship, and we'll see the option here to get repair quote. Now, if there's more than one ship, select the ship. In this case, I've just got my Merlin. Here are my damaged modules. I can get some stats on how damaged they are, and in the top right here I actually get a quote for the repair cost, in this case around 1900 ISK. Not much at all. Hit the repair all, select yes, and we're done. That ship is now repaired. It cost me a little bit of ISK, but it was nice and quick and easy, and we're ready to head off again. Now, there is actually a way to repair in space without the use of a Citadel or a station, and that is through nanite repair paste. So I'm going to buy some nanite repair paste from the market here in Fleet, pop it into my cargo hold, because we can actually use that to repair a module that hasn't been burnt out. So bear in mind, if you get to 100%, you cannot use this method, okay, if you 100% damage it. I'm going to put 10 units of nanite repair paste into my hold, and we're going to show you how to repair in space. So here we are, we've done some more damage to our afterburner. Let's say we don't have access to a station or a Citadel, we can repair it here in space by right clicking and selecting repair. That number 1 in the bracket there indicates 1 unit of nanite repair paste will be used in this repair, and you'll see the little glow here, and you can see the damage numbers are starting to slowly come down. It tells us a repair time, so if we wait out the repair time, that unit of nanite paste will get consumed at the end of the repair cycle, which we could interrupt at any point if we needed to get out of here in a hurry, but that repair paste will get used at the end of the cycle. So we just jump forward, and you'll see here that module is now repaired. My nanite repair paste quantity drops to 9 in the hold, and I can repair multiple modules at once. So I'm going to repair these other 2 modules. I'll start both repairs as simultaneously, and at the end of that, 2 units of repair paste will be consumed. Weird little fun fact, you can actually turn off the capacity to overload if you don't trust yourself to not accidentally overheat your modules. This little menu here at the bottom right corner of our capacitor wheel has the option to lock the overload state, and if you tick that, you will not be able to overload your weapons. So if I try to overheat, for example, this module, I'll get an error message that says you've locked that state. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but just let you know it's there. Now, I also did mention earlier that if you burn out a module, you cannot use this method. You'll need to dock up at a station or a Citadel. So if I right click on this burnt out afterburner and try to repair it in space with my nanite paste, you'll see that I get this error message that says, sorry, that's not going to happen. You will need to dock up at a station. Right, so earlier we showed you that you can overheat a module by shift clicking whilst it's operating, but you can also preload your overheat state. So I've shift clicked on my afterburner, but I haven't turned it on yet, and you'll see it's lit up ready to go, even though I'm not getting any heat damage. So as soon as I turn that module on, I'm straight into my overheated state. This is a really handy tip in PvP, particularly with something like an afterburner or a warp scrambler, to preload your overheated status ready to launch straight into it. One final tip will be the placement of your modules, because that can impact their heat damage. Modules further away from each other are less likely to impact each other, so things like my afterburner and my warp scrambler are things that I'm very likely to overheat. So I'm actually going to move my afterburner. I'll put my shield extender back in as a bit of a buffer between it and my warp scrambler, which is down at the bottom of my mid slot there, just to keep those two important, most likely to overheat items sort of separated physically from each other to try and minimize the heat damage during a fight. So there you go, guys. That's your new bro intro to overheating and thermodynamics, an incredibly important thing to be able to do, particularly in PvP where you want short-term bursts in performance to try and give you that little edge in a fight, but also making sure you don't burn out or damage your modules. We're going to take this little Merlin now that we've got some overheating skills and see if we can't blow it up, and keep an eye out for part 2 of the 100 Frigates project, which will see the death of this little Merlin here. Good job. Well done.